Hello, friends. Welcome to this SOAFEE Fireside Chat. We're calling it Inside SOAFEE from Vision to Blueprints. I'm Ken Briodagh, Editor-in-Chief with Embedded Computing Design, and I am honored to be your host today. Joining me are Robert Day and John Penn, ARM's representatives to SOAFEE. Robert is the marketing chair, and John is the technical chair of SOAFEE. And today we're going to be talking about some of the really exciting things that you can all expect from SOAFEE coming forward. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
The pleasure's entirely mine, of course, and I don't prefer to gild the lily too much, so let's jump right in and start at the very beginning. What is SOAFEE? What is the foundation, and what should folks know about it?
So SOAFEE is bringing together cloud-native methodologies with standardized interfaces, as well as deployable open source and commercial blueprints. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And what this is doing is enabling automotive software developers to deliver portable software-defined solutions across diverse silicon platforms.
Hey, that's a good point, Robert. SOAFEE is a consortium of automotive members working together as a standardization effort to simplify and accelerate SDV software development and deployment. The great thing about our SOAFEE members, they bring a diverse set of technology skills that when combined together, this drives innovation efforts across the entire software technology stack. And these standardization efforts are looking at standards such as System Ready, VirtIO, and PSA. But we're focusing on new areas, such as cloud native tooling, CI/CD, MLOps, looking at the whole entire end-to-end developer workflow.
It's really exciting stuff, guys. The interesting point here is that automotive has been developing rapidly. It's one of the fastest changing industries right now. So there's a lot of moving parts, and the work that SOAFEE's doing is really important in keeping that stuff in line. But before we look forward, it's important to look backwards. So I'm curious if you'd talk to us a little bit about what you've learned in the last 4 years and what sort of the past little bit's been like.
Yeah, so SOAFEE, now going into its 5th year of existence, has become a fantastic collaboration forum. Our members work together to join their expertise, their technologies, and bringing that to the automotive developers. So they're doing this by showing by example. The SOAFEE Blueprint program, which we're going to again learn a lot more about, is bringing SOAFEE in action to the ultimate consumers of SOAFEE, the software developers in the OEMs and tier ones. We always knew that many of our members had been developing example applications using SOAFEE. Now we've invited them to share with the other SOAFEE members and the rest of the software world and automotive world via the Blueprint program.
So where we started, 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, we focused on bringing container technology down from the cloud, now in a highly optimized manner to simplify software execution and deployment, but and most importantly, that it would meet the automotive ecosystem needs. And this effort, it took a lot of doing. We got it out there. It's been well received. There are now solutions being implemented using containers. And now it's up to the engineers. It's an engineering problem. How do you keep enhancing it? How do you keep optimizing container technology to run at speed? But what this deep dive into cloud software concepts taught us is you can't just look at only the software stack, right? We must embrace and improve the entire end-to-end developer journey. And what does that mean? CI/CD, multi-partner component integration, functional safety, virtual to physical platform execution for early software development and high-performance debugging. But think about this. With the sheer amount of software that's being put into the car, it's the integration and validation efforts. This is now the most difficult aspect. So you tie in using legacy software and tools, the amount of non-differentiating software being built is just becoming massive. And this is the effort, what SOAFEE's looking at is how do we optimize and enhance this to meet the automotive needs.
And actually, the importance of aligning the safety, the performance, and also the software velocity that we're now seeing in the automotive world.
Yeah, I think that alignment is really a secret sauce, and bringing those three elements together is really, really important as we look at the blueprints that your members and stuff have been putting together throughout this period. I mean, the the outlines and the learnings that they're going to share amongst each other are really, really important. John, would you tell us a little bit about what the blueprints are and how we're going to move through those?
So before I jump into what blueprints are, let's go a little bit backwards. So historically, software developers, we all like to talk about we need a standard. We have to build a standard. And there was a lot of effort put into building standards first. And what has come after many, many years of looking at this is in some instances, you actually need to flip that on its head. For new technology and hyper-evolving, domains, you need to get some code out there, build up the knowledge base, get experience, and then go into building the standards. And this is where blueprints, come in. You develop blueprints, you see what works, what doesn't. We figure out, we use them as technical validation, software pieces, and more importantly, it's education. So once you get this strong understanding, then the blueprints drive into standards, and that's where we can engage and encourage best practices, and utilize that across the industry.
And with a marketing hat on, the value of blueprints are giving tangible proof of what's working and how these code examples could be actually used by automotive software developers. And what we're seeing is that the companies that submit these blueprints are proving this is not just theory, this is not just slideware, it's how SOAFEE grows and it's how things work. And they really are allowing our members to collaborate and share their expertise and technology. And then every blueprint submission makes the next one faster and easier.
I mean, it's definitely true that that sort of collaborative learning is going to make the development faster and better. If everybody's working in a silo, everything is slower. So this is really, really exciting. And now that we've hit this sort of rolling flywheel type development, you know, can we talk a little bit about how the blueprints are more than just demos, more than just use cases, case studies? They're going to be so much more than that, I think.
Yeah, the other interesting thing with blueprints that we've seen is that they are reusable, they're validated, and they're becoming trusted. And that's a key part when you're looking at, the rapid development now of automotive software.
Yeah, because this is where our partners are bringing out their commercial offerings.
Yeah.
Right? These offerings go into, they go into vehicles, and they also are bringing out and integrating in open source components as well. So this is real stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That real world learning is invaluable. So we've moved into the present and into what's exciting now. Let's talk a little bit about the momentum and what maturity looks like.
Yeah, so the first thing let's go back to blueprints again. The pipeline of our blueprints is accelerating. It's fantastic. It really is fostering a kind of collaborative growth within our members, but we're getting more and more examples of workloads, of technologies that will really show how you can build the next generation of software-defined things. And that's where we're also looking at, well, are there other, verticals, markets that, SOAFEE could be applied to? Things like autonomous machines, commercial fleets, even industrial automation. So the software-defined vehicle was really the kind of killer use case for SOAFEE. It was a lot of software that had to be developed fast. It had to be validated. It, really had to go through different sort of safety and security validations. So what we've also seen is how our SOAFEE members are showing off these blueprints, giving demonstrations at events like CES and Embedded World, and really sort of showcasing with real kind of pride what they've achieved as being SOAFEE members. We've also been running some SOAFEE-specific seminars. We're running our 4th SOAFEE face-to-face seminar in the APAC region in Shanghai in November. And then we're following that with our first seminar, SOAFEE seminar in India, in Bangalore in December. This is a really interesting place where our SOAFEE members and potential SOAFEE members come together. They show off their technology, they show off their blueprints. And as a sort of spin-off of one of these seminars in APAC, we've now formed the first regional SOAFEE hub in the APAC region. And this is actually allowing our SOAFEE members in the APAC region to collaborate, communicate on both regional and also global issues that SOAFEE can address.
That's really, really exciting. And especially those live workshops, I think are really, really cool in helping with adoption and understanding. And John, I know you're chomping at the bit to talk a little bit about these technical adoptions. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
This is the best part when we get to talking about exciting stuff. You can already see I'm coming out, I'm jumping out of my chair. And this is what I see when I look across the, our SOAFEE members. You see all kinds of software. It matches the SOAFEE philosophy, right? From things that we've talked about for years, security, right? Security on device, using ML, to amplify security, functional safety, right? Let's not forget digital cockpit, ADAS. It's all there, all the way to, OTA. It's not the greatest, it's not the least, but man, that is the foundation. It's just everywhere. It's incredible. But there's two topics that always jump to the top of my mind. Where are we going next? Virtual platforms and MLOps, right? Virtual platforms, in an abstract sense, we've been dealing with that for many, many years. They were custom, they were research projects, right? There were types of implementations. They came in every which way, but they showed that the validity of it was there. It was the delivery and the implementation. So what's happening now in SOAFEE is that our community members, they're providing hardware consistent, native accelerated platforms that take advantage of servers in the cloud to enable a homogeneous cloud to car program execution, that was previously unheard of, right? Debugging in a software environment, in a virtual, world, it's so much simpler, it's richer, than working on production hardware, ECUs and, development platforms. This is where, as my background as a software developer, I want everyone to have a digital car on their desktops. That's my goal. Now for MLOps, this is new. This is like the brand new stuff. How do we make it simple? How do we make it easy, right? Model developers, they shouldn't have to worry about the technology at the edge, right? They should not have to worry about the compatibility of training and deployment, to the edge. They just needs to get done. So they're using this understanding we've learned from the past. It's this level of standardization that just needs to be implemented, thought about, developed, right? It's vital that SOAFEE takes advantage of this, because the ecosystem software developers, they get it. It may be difficult, it may be hard, but they know it needs to happen. And this is where we need to, up our game, drive these standardization efforts. This will get us to where we can do high-speed model training, development cycles with minimal effort.
Well, I think that's a really salient point. That sort of combination of the standards development and the virtualization really sort of gets that process a big jump start toward that plug and play is not really the right word for it, but that easier sort of leap to the practical applications that everyone's trying to get toward. And I love the idea of all these other verticals that SOAFEE's going to be playing with, and it sounds like if it rolls, it's SOAFEE coming forward. So that's exciting. And that's me saying that, but I'd love to hear from you, Robert, where SOAFEE's going next. What can folks expect?
So we have kind of a bit of a grandiose view of this, that we think SOAFEE could become the de facto software foundation across mobility domains, whatever they are. We can see our community expanding. We can see more and more collaboration in regions and collaborative working groups, really trying to solve the hard problems so that software developers can really piece together what will be the software-defined future. We're also looking to expand that into other like-minded organizations. There are a number of automotive focused, consortia out there, and we want to make sure that SOAFEE will, cooperate, collaborate, and almost kind of help be some of the glue around them. We also see that our blueprint library will continue to grow. We're going to offer more and more examples of how to build and test software applications in the cloud before that final deployment to the edge or the vehicle.
So I keep bringing this up, but I focus on safety and security. These concepts are being deeply integrated across the software landscape. What we really want is these developers must be enabled to automatically meet these requirements, right? And this ends up making integration with safety and security certification flows, right, smoother and much simpler. But the real challenge is in the enhancement and the levels of abstraction for obtaining true workload portability across vendor platforms. Right? This is a dream. This is a vision that we've been chasing for a long, long time. And it not only now has to cover on physical platforms, but on virtual platforms as well. And again, we need to make this as easy as possible. Now, it does, when we talk standards and abstractions, it does not reduce the effectiveness of our platform vendors or our suppliers, right? In fact, this makes it easier by it helps reduce the cost of creating all this non-differentiating software, and it allows our partners to focus on performing innovation at a greater scale. And this is where the SOAFEE standardization efforts, like this is what we're focusing on. Areas that have become standard, we want to make that simpler and faster. Just let's get it done, get it implemented. And we want to enable new code first features to be developed and brought to production. So we have to do this balancing act. If we find this to be of great value, and this is back to where we go to let's get stuff implemented first, then we go to standards, because we got to find the value. This is how we put it in place, and this is how we move our technology forward.
Yeah, it's this dual approach of advancing the technology and the standards at the same time advancing the industry and growing the standard into these new markets, new verticals, and constantly creating these blueprints that everyone can be learning from each other and advancing the whole thing faster. It's really, really exciting. And I know there's going to be a lot more to come from SOAFEE in the next 5 to however many years. So as the automotive industry gets more and more exciting, as mobility expands and autonomy expands, this is not going to be the last we hear from SOAFEE. So I'd like to thank you both so much for taking the time to chat about all this exciting stuff. This is all really, really great. So thank you, Robert. Thank you, John. And I've been Ken Briodagh and your host. Hope everyone has a nice day.
Thanks, Ken.
All right, thank you.